Welcome to Creatively by Estelle, a podcast for creative and performing artists. My name is Estelle Averi, and I'm your host. Whether you're just starting or you're a pro, this show will help you feel inspired and motivated every single week along your creative journey, and will give you tactical tools and tips for fulfilling your creative goals and your God-given purpose as a creative person. You have gifts to give, so let's do this. Let's live creatively, and let's get into the episode. Hey, all right. Welcome back to Creatively by Estelle. I am so excited to share today's episode with you. I'm interviewing a friend. We went to high school together, and now she is here sharing her journey with you, and I cannot wait to introduce you to her. It's a little bit of a longish episode, but so worth it. So buckle in, okay, pause it and come back and watch it again if necessary, or listen again if necessary, because you're going to want to hear everything that Hannah talks about today. If you're an aspiring artist or performer, especially, you are going to love this episode. Before we jump in, I do want to let you know that this week, yes, drum roll please, drop-in classes are starting at Creatively Performing Arts, my online voice and performing arts studio. So as you know, I have a membership for any beginner singers who love musical theater and want to be in a community where you can grow as a singer and be uplifted by other people in the same community and get feedback from me as a voice teacher. But you might not know if you want this membership, right? If you are ready for this community. But I want you to get a taste of it so you can try any drop in class at any point in time. If you are interested in just seeing what this membership might be like, get a feel for what the singing classes are like. And yeah, I'm really excited to be able to sing with you guys this week. The first class is on Wednesday. It's going to be on Wednesday, August 17th, and the song that we're singing is Opening Up from Waitress. And then on Friday, August 19th, we're going to sing The Wizard and I from Wicked. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun, beginner level. You will not feel behind at all. You're going to feel so encouraged and ready to grow as a singer as you get some simple voice techniques while we work on these songs. So yay, I can't wait. Go to creativelybyestelle.com/class, creativelybyestelle.com/class in order to look at the classes and sign up. The link is in the show notes. All right, so let me introduce you to our guest today. Hannah Thompson is a singer, actor, and voice teacher. She studied music as an undergrad at Belmont University and then received her master's in music at University of South Carolina. And she's been teaching in South Carolina, but recently made a move to New York City to become a full-time performing artist after teaching and performing for years. She shares her story today about making bold pivots, knowing that your path will unfold as it ought to, especially as a creative, and how she's creating the life that she wants for herself as an artist. And she also gives great advice for dealing with rejection and imposter syndrome and finding auditions as a performer. So this is definitely the episode to inspire and support any aspiring singers, actors, and creatives. Okay, so listen in. Let's get into the interview. All right, so I'm here with Hannah Thompson, an old friend,
Hello.
schoolmate, I guess. Hi, how are you doing today?
So good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk to you. Like we were already saying
Yes.
before, it's a nice reunion
I
um,
know.
of like
Caldwell
choir
reunion.
members. Yes, Caldwell
Yep.
reunion, Caldwell singers, choir members reunion, theater reunion, because you did plays too. Like it's crazy.
Were we in
Um,
a play together?
I don't. Were you in? Were you in? What's it called? Kind of. No, not kind of Monte Cristo. I know you.
I wasn't that.
I know you were in that one. What's that other
Hmm.
one? I can't remember. Three Musketeers? Were you in Three Musketeers?
No, but my brother was.
Yeah, he was. Okay.
Yes. That was an
No,
eventful
I
one.
think because by the time you were a senior,
Yeah.
I would have been, because I would have been like in eighth grade. So
Right.
yeah, so
Right.
we weren't in high school together.
We definitely both ate up as much theatrical, musical things at
Yeah.
Caldwell as we could.
Yes, we did. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I'm so excited to hear about your journey as an artist? Because I know now you are a singer, you're a voice teacher, and an actor as well, right? So just tell us a little bit about what
Mhm.
you do now and then a little bit about your journey. You can go into it as much as you want to, but just to let us know what you do now as a creative.
Absolutely. Um, I've recently sort of taken a huge left turn just in my life and creative journey. I recently moved to New York City in June. Yeah, so kind of totally shifting my life around. Before I was living in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where I did my master's, and then I really built my sort of teaching and performance base there before moving. And that also, lots of opportunities there really gave me this springboard to take the big move to New York, and to pursue now musical theater, opera, really performing. So this is something I haven't done solely yet in my life. So I'm excited, and I'm learning a lot. I still am, you know, putting all the pieces together of what that looks like to um, put music and performing in the forefront, and then, trying to maintain your life after. Um, I think before I moved here, it was more the opposite, where I needed to have a full-time job. I was a lot more focused on voice teaching as well, and then I performed when I could. I think COVID also really shifted that as well, because we were just trying to survive. And, when those opportunities left us, it was even just trickier to perform. Um, but luckily, I found a lot of creative ways of doing so. Um, yeah, so we're doing this interview as I'm starting a new chapter. There's not yet much on the page, but I'm really excited, and I'm using this summer really to just prep before lots of auditions come around, and also just getting to know my performing community here. I mean, there's a huge one, so I'm really excited to just start working again, whenever that may be.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I'm so excited for you. Like, literally, as soon as I saw you were moving to New York, I was like, yes, go,
Yeah.
girl, go Hannah. Yes. That's so exciting. And I knew, and I think, I don't know if you'd mentioned it in on your Instagram or something that you were starting to perform, but I know that you had been performing. I'd seen like in passing, and I always notice whenever
Yeah.
people are doing artistic things, I always like,
Hmm.
I don't know, it's my mind, like I can't not notice it. I'm just like, yes, amazing, love that, that's beautiful, so cool. So every time I saw that, I was like, oh wow, that's so cool, like she's performing and she's teaching at the same time. Like that's like, that's a lot to juggle, so kudos to you for even
Hmm.
doing that. Because then you're able to like inspire your students from your experiences as well as like what you studied in school. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited for you and congratulations on the big move and like, starting this new chapter. I know it's going to be great. So that's awesome.
I'm excited, and I've just had to have a lot of patience with myself and give myself a lot of grace. I, like I mentioned, was very busy. And I think since I started just sort of my artistic career, I definitely go on the side of busyness and
Mhm.
wanting to be involved in so many things. So I have a hard time saying no to opportunities. I think especially when you're starting out, you're just trying to get everything you can. Um, and so I was doing right before I moved, I was doing a show. I was finishing up my full time job. I was teaching voice lessons and a musical theater class at a local theater, and like they were getting ready for their end of year showcase. So it was so much going on. I loved it, but then the next huge step was just moving, and I had to then give myself grace that you just need to get settled here first. You do not need to be going to 20 auditions a week, as soon as you step foot here. Um, And I don't think I really could have. I wouldn't have known what to do. So, um, just being a little bit more methodical and enjoying this time where it's a lot more still in my life, and giving myself time to actually create, to practice, to just hone my skills. Um, that's, I think, something that every performer, every artist needs to remember, that they don't have to constantly be doing and in a show, constantly booked and busy. You know, there's also a lot of time where you need to practice and come back to yourself. And it is hard because it's not something we show off, it's not something that's pervasive on social media, but it is definitely, I think, essential to, every creative person's journey.
Yeah, wow. That was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that because I think that's something that I've been trying to do, not even trying to do, something I've been doing
Hmm.
this year
Right. Yeah.
is really being intentional about like training vocally, taking voice lessons. I'm doing like a voice technique certificate at Berkeley now online. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
I'm really excited. Yeah. And it's like I'm trying to really focus on how can I make sure that I'm growing and intentionally, making sure that my voice is where I want it to be
Hmm.
and growing as an artist. So I've been taking dance classes and
Yeah.
acting as well. And so, yeah, you're very right. Like it's, I think it's for me, it's kind of, I'm trying to do it as like a jumping off point so that like, because I didn't get that traditional training in college, in musical theater and singing, dancing, acting. Now I'm trying to sort of create my own um, education, and so, but it's true. Like we all need that time to like step back and say, like, what am I doing? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how can I get there?
Yeah.
What does it take to
Well, I
get
mean, I identify with that. I mean, a lot of my training in college, I started out, I was going to be a choir teacher, and I
there?
went to school for music ed, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm really thankful that that was my foundation, because it did teach me so many other skills within the music world, that uh, you can access even while you're performing, or if that's the goal, is to build sort of a program in a school, maybe to go to higher education. I'm so thankful that that was my initial training. And then just as I continued on, I wanted to pursue then private voice teaching, because that was something that was so important to me. It took me a while to figure out my voice, and I think I still am. And I always valued that one on one instruction that you get, and just that time for you to also, I think voice lessons, they work on you and your psyche so much too, not just your singing voice. You really check in with yourself. And so then that was sort of the goal of grad school, was to learn more about the voice and performing, so I could um, put that into private instruction. And then it kind of became a hodgepodge of, oh, I really like performing, and I always have. And I just want to jump into that head on.
Guys, Hannah has always been a performer, okay? Like, our school is very small, so like you could see like people in their element more because it
That's
was like,
true. Yeah.
okay, like you knew who was going to be in the play, right? You knew who was going to be in choir, like you knew who was going to, try to be in this sport or that sport, right? Like you could just tell, not that you wanted to box people in, but you could tell people's talents. If you're doing something, everyone can kind of see, everyone knows that you're, you
Yes.
know.
Right.
So because of that, like I could tell like from the very beginning, like, oh, Hannah's such a good singer, she's such a great performer, like you could tell, and yeah. So I'm so excited that was there like a turning point, would you say? I guess clearly there was, but like could you pinpoint like
Mhm.
a specific turning point? Because I know, like I was talking to you before this, a lot of people grew up in the arts, right? Or grew up kind of
Mhm.
being encouraged to be creative, and that's great. And then eventually that kind of wanes a little bit. They sort of want to be more quote unquote serious, or
Right.
whatever society says. Try to put arts in a certain place in your life, right? um and then but then eventually sometimes people kind of come back to the arts if that's what they're drawn to, if that's in their nature, if God has literally gifted them with those talents and those gifts and that passion for it. And so for me, like, there was definitely a turning point where I was like, oh no, like, I'm definitely going all in this. um
Yeah.
and I know you've been, like, your entire journey has been creative, like your voice teaching, that's incredibly creative, being a teacher, right? And
Mhm.
you are still performing, but I think, tell us about, like, your upbringing in the arts and what kind of drew you to the arts in the first place, if you can think about that. And then, like, where do you think it kind of got away from performing? And then what was the moment that really, like, pushed you to now move to New York, right? And, like, start a performing career? That's a big jump, and an amazing jump, but I'm just curious about, like, the journey towards, like, that turning point. If that makes sense.
Yes. That's a good question. I think in terms of finding it first, it did start in middle school choir. I felt like I couldn't do anything well when I was growing up in middle school. I just felt, very wallflower. And I think my tendency is that I can be shy. But when I found music and singing, that sort of gave me an identity. It helped me express myself. It feels good to feel good at something or to be good at something.
Yeah.
And just when you kind of find your calling, I feel like I found it early, in middle school. Um, and then that kind of set me off. I wanted to do as much as I could in the arts. And I think I've always had a lot of interest within music and acting as well. I've done a lot of church music. I've done more on the classical side, opera, musical theater, and I like to dabble in all of those. I think because I wanted to experience as much as I could. Um, so that was the introduction. Was really middle school choir. I'm hooked. And gosh, I feel like I've had so many turning points in my career where um, I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do, or these people are saying no to me. What do I want? And honestly, getting even into music school, into a music program was hard for me. I just hadn't really honed my skills yet, and honestly, I think some of the that fear and shyness that like has always been a little bit of a crutch for me, that especially jumping into a huge pond from a huge ocean into coming from a small pond, that was really tough. And so I kind of got hit in the face with that early on, which I think was good for me. I faced rejection right out of the gate, which for a minute I thought, I can't do this, I'm not going to crack it. And then I don't know, something inside was just like, try one more time. And this was just to get into music school. So I did. And then, you know, there were many decisions down the line where I wanted to go, where I felt valued and where I felt that I could be myself. And so um, that caused like a change in schools, a change in program. And I think maybe that first rejection, just trying to make it into this world and rejection to learn more about music, um, it put in me maybe this a little bit of a fear based choice that, okay, I'm going to do something that feels safe. I do love educating. The more I took those education classes, I really enjoyed it. But I thought, okay, this is safe and I can still sort of surround myself with music, even though, well, I do still really want to perform. I think there's a place for me in that, but no one's really offering me that yet. Um, and so I think, yeah, some of the decision to pursue education was a little bit out of fear, but I did really grow to love it. And I saw how you can perform as a teacher, how you can then inspire kids to also feel comfortable in their own skin, and really, doing that for kids just like me when I was in middle school and giving them that platform early on. Um, I think a change to, you know, pursue performing that happened in college when I was doing my student teaching, and I was also auditioning for grad school for voice. And I had a teacher who encouraged me. I think you're not done yet with sort of this pursuing um, your voice and performing in that way. So I decided to shift to only performing, but I was also teaching privately, and I really enjoyed that. And then a huge shift that really took me to the path of New York was I actually did a play by a local playwright named Lou Clyde in South Carolina. Um, it was weird. I had done a production of Into the Woods, and then one of my co-stars said, "Hey, this person needs people to do a dramatic reading for their new play. Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure." So I did it, you know, thought nothing of it. And then COVID hit. Then right after, sort of it was starting to open up. This is about 2 years later. The playwright asked me to audition. They were going to go show it in New York City at an off-Broadway theater. And like the trip would be paid for, like all expenses included. And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I don't even do plays anymore. I just do sort of musicals and opera, but yeah, why not? And, an audition where I felt like, nope, absolutely not. They're not going to pick me. That was terrible. And then I got it. And I got to premiere a new work up here in New York a year ago, actually. And just working with these people, the directors and the other co-stars were so enlightening, incredible. And they gave me a lot of encouragement to pursue this, and were saying, you have something that can be shown. And then I came to New York and did the show, and it just felt like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is like, it's the magical, like warm feeling you get. It's like, okay, that's my next step.
Yeah.
That's a very hopefully was truncated version of, there's so many turning points. Like, I
Yeah.
can't pick just one, but they've all, I would sometimes look back on my choices in my career and be like, I should have done this. I should have done this sooner, da da da. But really, everything led up to where I'm supposed to be. And, all I can say is I'm thankful I'm going to use that to my
Yeah.
best ability.
Yeah. That's so good. I love how you described um being like, oh, maybe that was a fear-based decision, but then
Mm-hmm.
it ended up working out. And then at the end of the day, like I always like you were saying earlier, like your path will always like it'll always lead back to where it's supposed to be eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you had those teachers encouraging you along the way. Like literally it was like all signs were pointing to performing, but sometimes
Yeah,
it takes us a minute to to
it does.
adjust. So I'm literally me too. Like I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I literally never told anyone. Like I literally never talked about this, but I actually was also when I was applying for colleges, I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to like I really wanted to do something in the arts, but I was like, no, like I have to do something practical. And I love psychology, and I'm really glad I studied it
Yeah.
because it was helpful to like life in general and like everything that I want to do now. Like I'm starting a business, like I'm also performing, and
Yeah.
I want to go to grad school eventually at some point. Like I'm just so glad I had that background in like research and like psychology and all that stuff. But I really wanted to do something in the arts. I wanted to at least minor in something. And so I was like, I think there were a couple schools that I had like applied to that were like you could get like a scholarship in their music department and you could just like take
Hmm.
classes there or be a minor or a double major. And I was like, oh, I'd love that. But I was kind of hesitant because I was like, oh, but like everyone thinks I'm gonna be pre-med. Like I can't like just all of a sudden now be like a double music and
There's
psychology.
only one path. Yeah.
Yeah, like my mind was so like I don't know. I was 17 years old. Okay, guys. Like I don't know.
Right.
It was like what
You
I was
expect me to make
thinking.
this decision now?
Literally. So I was like, yeah, it has to be this one thing. But I still auditioned for a couple ones. I auditioned for College of Charleston. I'm laughing because now I'm like, why did I do this?
No
And I chose,
way.
yes, but why did I choose the hardest song in the world? I chose Don't Rain on My
Wait.
Parade.
Oh no.
Which, if you are in the musical theater world right now, you know there is a lot of drama around Funny Girl on
There
Broadway.
is. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I
Mhm.
do want to go check it out. I've heard the
Yeah.
I think it's Julia or Julie Benko. She's
Mhm.
the understudy, but yeah, I mean, right, like that song, even just with the historical weight that it has, it's like,
I
why
don't
would I take
know
this on?
why I did that. No, I know why I did that because I was watching Glee, everyone. I had been watching Glee,
Of course,
and
yeah.
I saw Leah Michelle do that. Oh my gosh. 17-year-old me. I wish I could just go back and be like, please choose another song. But anyway, I
Oh,
did.
the
It was
audition songs.
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, it
I
wasn't
always feel like I need a
terrible.
workshop with that.
It wasn't terrible, but it just like, why would I do that song? Like, there are other songs that could have shown off my voice better. Anyway, point is, I didn't get the scholarship. Okay, but
But
why
you
did I
need those
say
all
this?
like fall on your face moments to
Right.
learn.
I'm just sharing
Yeah.
this to say, like, I was still wanting to do that, but as soon as I was like, oh no, like I didn't, and I think I auditioned to like, um, other ones. Like that wasn't the only one. That's just the only one I remember distinctly. I remember
Mhm.
distinctly because it was that song, and I sang another song too. I think I sang Caro Me Bien, maybe like it was like a
Oh,
classical, like
love it.
very simple
Yes.
classical song, and I was like, at least I knew that one went well. But because Mrs. Fake, our choir teacher, worked with me on that one,
Oh,
it was
yes.
good.
Well, I mean, right, you can't go wrong with a Caro Mio Ben.
Yeah. So I did that, but yeah, at the end of the day, I did not get it. All that to say is now I'm back in like the arts and performing and stuff. So, like you said, it eventually like we will get back onto the right paths for us. And so I'm glad that you shared that. And I love hearing that's why I love interviewing people on the show because I love hearing stories. I mean, we're artists, we love stories, right? But I just love hearing
Right.
people's stories so far because obviously you have a long way to go and you have amazing things ahead. But I love hearing people's stories so far because it just goes to show like it's okay if you make one quote unquote wrong decision or one seemingly wrong turn, because eventually I believe that God will get you back on your path. Um,
Right.
and the situations will line up such that you end up where you need to be eventually. So thank you for
Well,
sharing.
right, and like not even yeah, like not even thinking that it's a wrong decision, but like you're going to use it in the future no matter what. And I think a long-term goal of mine, this is really like the only clear one I have right now is I'm going to use whatever I can in performing to one day give it back, either in the classroom or in a voice studio. I think if we have all this experience, but we don't share it and we don't help lead the next generation, I think we do a disservice just to the arts community in general. And even whether you're doing that as a career, teaching and giving back, or you're just doing it to your community,
Yeah.
and to those people who are maybe they're asking you questions, or they don't know where to start. And so, I want to be able to give that to somebody who maybe even starts earlier than I did, so they can get on that path.
Yes, amen to that. Same here.
Hmm.
I love that. And that's what you're doing here by being on this show. So thank you for sharing with us.
We're giving back.
We
Yes.
are, yes.
I
But
hope.
it's so true. Like, I wish, I mean, I knew creative people growing up, but it was like you don't really see as many examples of like older people who are like doing their creative work. I mean, obviously
Right.
our choir teachers, our drama teachers and
Yeah.
everything, but which is why they're so important. But yeah, it's like it's so important for people not to gatekeep and to like share like this is what was my process and this is how it went
Mhm.
for me. And so that people at least know like, okay, this is possible. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people would sort of point to imposter syndrome and like feeling like, oh,
Mm.
they're not good enough and therefore they're not going to use their creative gifts at all. Like they're just not even going to do anything with it, or experiencing self-doubt, or saying, okay, I'm too shy, so I'm not going to attempt to step out and to try this new thing, or to try this dance class, or try a voice lesson, or audition for this show, or whatever.
Mhm.
you know I would love for you to talk about your mindset and how you're able to bounce back from rejection, how you're able to overcome like feeling shy, and maybe moments of self-doubt, maybe moments of fear and things like that. What are some of your experiences with that, and how have you been able to bounce back?
Yeah. Well, first thing that comes to mind, I mean, even when I was getting students prepared for auditions, and they're just like, I can't ever shake these nerves. And I tell them honestly, the nerves never really go away. We need a little bit just to get us energized. But there is a way that you can balance them and quiet some of the sort of bad nerves down, the anxieties, and then just let your art shine through. Um, I think a mindset that I had for so long, and only till recently I've realized that's probably not very smart, is I will tell myself, you have to get this
Mhm.
or else, basically. And I'll give myself this huge ultimatum of, if you don't get this, I don't know how you're going to do A, B, and C, you know, and I thought that was positive thinking because I was trying to psych myself up that you're going to get this. They have to choose you. When really, I think that's a detrimental thinking process because you're putting all of your worth into what other people are going to think of you, to this yes or no, you got the job, you didn't, then your worth is totally tied up into that. Um, And that's easy to think, especially with singing or with anything with your body. It's such an intimate thing that we're presenting ourselves to the world with. And of course, it's easy for us to feel, like we're bearing our soul every time. So instead of thinking that you have to do this, you have to get this or else, I've started to tell myself, you're going to show them all of you. You're going to show them what you can do to the best of your abilities, and the rest is out of your hands. And that's where, there's just so many cool audition stories where people are like, I didn't think I was going to get it, but, the director, the writer, whoever said there was something about you that we just had to have you, and usually it is your own personality and what you bring to the table that no one else can bring. You can hit your marks totally. You can, your belt can be totally there. You remember all your words, but that's sort of like what they're expecting of everybody. And then all you can do is show who you really are. Um, yeah, when I found out what imposter syndrome was, I was like, oh, yeah, I totally have that.
Same, yeah.
And right, right. And again, I think that goes to, you have to take yourself out of this big picture that if I don't get this, then my whole career is over, because you're putting yourself into this position of someone who can't fail rather than I'm probably going to fail and I'm probably going to get a lot of no's, but that's not what defines me. Um, it's always the journey in between, right?
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I wrote it down. You're going to show them all of you, right? Like telling yourself, just show them who you are, and like
Rather
being,
than proving it. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
yes, conviction over convincing. Like you're like, I know who I am,
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
standing in, this is what I've worked on. And I know, and I've heard a lot of people say, and I like auditions for this very fact that it's
Hmm.
literally an opportunity to perform. Like you get the chance to
Yeah.
perform, which is like what we want to do anyway. And yeah, it's and when you like put aside all of that, like it has to be this way, like this specific outcome. I just did an episode, like a solo episode where I was talking about hoping, like putting your hope not in a specific outcome, but in your hope in knowing that God has a path for you and you're going to be on that path
Hmm.
regardless. And so like you can get your hopes up, but just don't get your hopes up in that, in like, oh, it has to turn out this way. But instead put your hope in the fact that I get to perform, like I get to do this creative process. I get to, just again show all of me, show myself,
Hmm.
be who I am, and whatever happens is gonna happen like the way that it ought to happen. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love that. That was really good. That's so true. So good.
It's been definitely a game changer, yeah, for me. And oh, I just had a thought and I lost it. Yeah, I don't
All
know.
right, if it comes back,
But it's been
let me
helpful.
know.
Yes,
Let me know if
yeah.
it comes back. Let me know if it comes back. Oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. So have you seen, like, since you started embodying that different mindset, like have you seen differences in the way that you perform, in the way that you, even not even just auditioning, but like when you're performing, I don't know, you know, sometimes like if you're not fully focused on like the character that you're portraying or like
Hmm.
the song that you're singing, those thoughts will start running through and it's like, no, like I need to be doing the work and not thinking about, what people might be thinking about me doing the work, or not thinking about all my fears of what if I'm doing this wrong, like
Yes.
have you seen those negative mindsets come in when you're performing, and then like how have you seen any differences in like changing that mindset?
Yeah. Well, I think the old mindset that you have to do this, you have to prove that you can do it, it is way more distracting as a performer. It's kind of like if a million, phone lights were flashing in your face that you're thinking about, oh, am I doing this well? How does this look? Did I enter that, get that cue right? And you
Mm.
can just self analyze as you perform, which I always tell my students it's like trying to fix a car while driving it. You have to stop and center yourself. So I've noticed when I have more of the mindset that I'm presenting what I can do to the best of my abilities, I feel more truly just centered in my body. For singing, it takes the whole body. Um, and you have to have so much focus. With your technique. And so if you can just channel your thoughts on making that happen rather than what is everybody thinking? What's going on around me? And of course, you have to be aware of those things, but starting with the centering yourself really helps one with the breath and how you can feel much more connected, um, how you are listening to everything around you rather than, I guess, trying to take it all in and decipher everything while you're doing the
Mm.
performing. Um, I've just noticed a huge shift in me feeling centered and more focused. And then I don't have time to think about all of those other thoughts of why are you doing this? You're not doing well. Oh, you should have you should have practiced more. Um, you should have spent more time. Um, and just doing what you can, I think that really helps. And then I do notice, like, even in that's when a character can shine through, especially when you're not I'm not putting all Hannah's thoughts on this character, I'm just letting this new person shine through,
Yeah.
and then I'm doing my job as well.
Yeah. Focusing on the work, right, instead of all the distractions that might be coming in. And
Right, and then, like, if any mistakes or something happens, I think that's, the best advice for an actor is, like, learning how to adapt,
yeah.
right? Because something's definitely gonna go wrong, but, you are when you're so focused, you can stay on the path. and it's like nothing went wrong.
Yeah. And I feel like that's true not just for like performing or being in an audition, but just like being a creative in general. There are going to be so many distractions, such as negative mindsets and doubts and imposter syndrome. Like those are all distractions to your journey towards whatever your goal is, whatever your idea of success is,
Mm-hmm.
or just being on the process of being an artist. Like there are going to be distractions and obstacles and things like that. What's some of that opposition that maybe you face so far, from whether it's people or situations? Like what are some of those things that you face? Because I know every creative, like you're going to face, like being an artist is not for the faint of heart. Some might
Mm-hmm.
say, right? Like you're going to face challenges, you're going to face obstacles. So what are some of those, what's some of the opposition towards just being a creative in general, especially in a world where sometimes being an artist isn't always praised, isn't always, encouraged?
Mm. I think, you know, as an artist, you have to know how to market yourself. You have to really be your own boss and stick up for yourself. Um, and in order for people to see you, there's a lot of those extra things you have to do. I think even now, any sort of social media presence or, you know, advertising of what you're doing, you're really advocating for yourself. And those are such important things really with any career that you're doing. If you want to be the best that you can be, you're doing that. But that can sometimes distract me a lot from truly just getting in the practice room and working on my craft. I'll think, oh well, I need this website, I need these new recordings, I need new headshots, da da da. And a lot of those things, while being important, can be sometimes overwhelming because it feels like you have to do it all. um, and I would say when facing those oppositions, that's when you ask for help, ask people what they did. And I think sometimes we want to present ourselves as all knowing and like, oh yeah, I just figured this out myself. And I don't know, I haven't met anybody who's totally figured it out themselves. They've had help with friends, teachers, mentors, blogs, podcasts, and they're using all of the tools they can. um, I think my grandpa said that my mom would always remind me of when I faced opposition, or like, I don't know what I'm doing, I feel so alone. And he would always say, no one was born knowing how to do this. This being whatever, fill in the blank. No one was, no one became a professional overnight. No one knew all the right decisions, right then and there. Um, so not letting all of the different sort of components steer you away from what you have to do, and also not feeling like, again, your identity is wrapped up in all of that. I think those are some oppositions that I faced,
Mm.
other than just people saying no. And I think that's another thing. We think that we're going to be defined by all of the rejections, when really no one has asked me, well, why did it take you this long to get into music school? Or, oh, you didn't get this part. Da, da, da. No one ever asked me that.
Yeah.
It's really more of what we think in our head is, it feels like we have just this big sign of, I've been rejected this many times. And really, no one is looking at that. Everyone's just looking at what you can do and what your potential is. So not letting your own self be an opposition, and then not letting the I think lifestyle of pursuing an artistic career, don't let that hinder you. Especially if you feel like, I can't do this on my own, I have no idea how to do this, let me ask for help.
So true. So good. Everything you're saying, I love it. I love it. And I think that I think any creative can learn from this, even if you're not in the performing arts or in, a singer or actor, but especially performers. But any creative can learn from that because, like what you said about, you're the only one, it's in your mind, like all the rejection, all of the things, all the opposition that you think is like defining you. You are thinking about it more than anyone else, right? And people really want to see like what can you do? Like how are you being you? How can you share your gifts, right? Focus on sharing your gifts, focus on doing the work. I love that. And yeah, what you said about like marketing, advocating for yourself is so important for sure. But thank you for that reminder. Like at the end of the
Mhm.
day, focus on your craft, focus on being the best that you can be as an artist. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I know we are going to be wrapping up, but I would love to know, just like on a tactical note, um, especially as you're getting into performing full time, what are some tips that you would give for like finding auditions, finding opportunities to be creative, putting yourself out there? I know you're, like you said, you're trying to like get involved in the community there, at the performing arts community. What are some things that you're learning about like the audition process and just finding opportunities to be creative where you are now?
Yes, and I mean, take this with a grain of salt. I'm still learning the process, but what I was encouraged to do, one, go to every audition you can that feels like, it's something you can do. Um, don't shy away if it's maybe not your dream role or the dream experience. Everyone has to start somewhere. And maybe you're doing a couple of collaborations where you're not getting paid, or it's maybe one long day of rehearsing. It's just not ideal, but that gets you into the community. And you don't want to take those types of jobs where you're not getting paid or compensated for your time. You don't want to do that forever, but I think not turning your nose up to certain jobs, certain experiences, that's a great way to just get started. I've used the platforms Backstage for casting calls. I've also used, for the more operatic world, there's one called Yap Tracker. And that just shows you auditions, competitions, all the notices. Um, I know that the sort of audition world has shifted since COVID, and I think we're still trying to figure out what that looks like. But so many of them, the auditions are online, they're over Zoom. I had one over Zoom the other day, which was honestly really nice. I was in the comfort of my own home. The live experience is a little bit different, but it was still really nice. A lot of times they ask for audition reels, sort of like a compilation of work that you've done. And I'm working on getting one of those together right now. So a lot of it is, you see what their requirements are. You see if, is this really something that I could take on? Or do I need a little bit more experience with? But also, if it's free to send in your materials, what's stopping you from just sending it in and then see what happens? So not getting bogged down with, I'm not right for that, or that's not really a great opportunity. Just get your stuff out there, get your foot in the door, sing, perform for as many people as you can. And then once you start getting those jobs, you can be more selective, um, as you dive more into the community. But that's my advice for anyone, no matter what, if it's a huge, like, New York City based community, or it's like your local theaters and you're like, I don't know, like, if I should really do this, will they really like it? Just get your foot in the door. You never know what they're looking for.
It's so true. Just put yourself out there and just start and
Just start.
start. Yeah. Right. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so good. And it's something that we all need a reminder of all the time. Like as creatives,
Mhm.
just put yourself out there, just go. Like you have something to give, you have a gift to give, you have a craft that you've worked on, or if you're just starting to work on it, just start, start today. Like you were saying, like it's easy to look back and say, oh, I should have started earlier. I should have done this earlier, right? No one
Mhm.
wants to live with that regret, right?
not that there should be any regret, because at the end of the day, you're going to be on the right path, but just start now and then you won't have to worry about regretting it later. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hannah, for being here. Last question. Well, second to last question. If you could leave us with just one word of advice for any aspiring creative artist, performer who may be listening, and you could just say like one thing, what would you say?
Ooh, one piece of advice. I would say keep your community close, not just your artistic community, but those who prop you up, your friends, family, whatever that looks like. Keep them in the loop about what you're doing and let them in. Again, this can be a very lonely process, and sometimes it'll just be a word or a sentence from a friend that's encouraging you, and it can really lift you up. Sometimes we need those reminders because we can't always tell ourselves that. We wish we could, but that's why we have our community. That's gotten me through so many different walks of my life, and really it is those friends that have kept me on this path and have encouraged me. Don't feel like you have to close off and figure this out all on your own. I know I've said that earlier, but it really is, I think, a make or break aspect of the performing community. We don't want to have this burnout to where it's just too much. We want to feel like we can ask for help. Keep your community close.
That's so good. Yes. Love that. Thank you so much. And where can anyone and everyone connect with you? Do you have a website, social media, anything that you would like to share where people can connect with you if they want to check in on what you're up to?
Yeah, I am working on a website. I feel like I've been saying that for years, but I am. No, right now you can just find me on Instagram. I'm at hannah.e.thompson. It's just my full name. On Instagram, I'm on Facebook with the same name. Those are the two places.
Thank you. And I'll put all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Hannah. Thank you for sharing with us all your advice and just your story in general. It was really inspiring to me, and I know that it inspired everyone listening. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for providing this platform. I think it's so helpful and just something really nice to listen to any time of the day.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it, or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help this show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.